everybody. It's Katie here with Rhea Health, and today I'm here with Sam Ferris. Sam is an actress and also somebody who used the medication naltrexone to overcome her own alcohol dependence. So, Sam, I am so happy to be chatting with you today. I really appreciate you taking time to sit and speak with me.
Oh, darling, thanks so much for having me. You know what, I will talk about this till the end of time. So I'm thrilled to talk about the Sinclair method and naltrexone. I think it's something that we need to talk about a lot more. I don't think it's prevalent enough out in the world. It's helped change my life. It's helped change your life. I will talk until the end of time about this. So thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And so, I'm sure me and others are really curious to learn about, first of all, just your own history with alcohol dependence and what led you to naltrexone. So could you just start by telling me and us a little bit about your history with alcohol?
Where did it go back to? I think I was one of those people that started early and went, "Ooh, I like this thing." I think the first time I got drunk, kind of drunk, was I was 14. Somehow found a beer. I was on my way to go visit my dad. My parents were divorced and I was going to the bus stop and I saw this beer and thought, I'm going to drink a beer just before I go to the bus stop. Why not? Give it a shot. I down a beer. I'm 14 and I loved the way that it felt. And I'm like, wow, this is what the adults are doing. This is what this is. I am into this. So, staying, and it just made the bus ride a little better. And by the time I got to my dad's, I was, sort of sober. And I was like, I'm going to do that again. And then that kind of kicked it off. That was my slingshot into alcohol. And I was the girl that went hard from the beginning. I was the first kid that got, stomach pumped. I was the first kid that somebody's parents had to drive home when they were 15 because I was throwing up in an alley. I was the girl who would black out and somehow find my way home from an early age. So I was that person that found it quick, found it early. And then it just, alcohol throughout your life, it changes. My 20s were crazy and nuts. And I was always the girl that blacked out. And I was always the girl that took her top off and danced on the tables. And when you're 20, everybody's kind of doing that. So you kind of all mix in and you don't see anything different. It's like, woo, I'm just the loud, crazy one. And then you get to your 30s and you're kind of still going, or I was still going, and everybody was calming down a bit. And, they were starting to get married and have kids. And, oh, you know what, we're not going to party so hard. And I'm like, forget that. Come on, guys, let's still shake. So at 30s, I was starting to see a pattern that I was still going and not everybody else was still going. And then I got to my early 40s, and that's when I started to see it wasn't cute anymore. And it got dangerous. And I started to see it. And you know what? Anybody that really has a problem now, and I started to really see the problem, and I didn't know that I didn't want to deal with it. And it started to get into my life. It didn't never really, I didn't lose jaw. I wasn't, thank God, my bottom, as some people call it. I didn't go all the way to the bottom, but I started to really see that, wow, I can't really put this down anymore. I don't get hammered every night and black out every night, but I couldn't stop now the word addiction, and I think the word addiction is one of those things. It's, what do they say about it? It's when you put everything else that's important aside, it all of a sudden takes a number one priority and you can't stop even when you want to. So I was starting to get there and I was starting to see it, but denial is an amazing thing when you don't want it. So I was starting to see it in my 40s, but I wasn't going out as much anymore in my 40s. I was recognizing that I was unsafe some nights and I didn't know when one night was going to go well and one night was going to go bad. I couldn't tell how it was going to go. And sometimes it went okay. Sometimes I went out and I'd have 2 drinks and I'm like, see, I don't have an alcohol problem. And then some nights I would have 6, 8, 10 and, black out and have sex with a cab driver. And I'm just being honest because I think we all have these crazy, crazy, great stories that are also a great bond for everybody because you can really look around and say, you should see my story. And I think that's a really good thing that we can laugh about. Because there's some pain in this, but there's also some great laughter and some great bonding over our alcohol stories. So I didn't know how it was going to go. So my world got smaller and I came home a lot and I would start to drink on my patio and I would not go out as much. And until I finally the cycle was just going on. Not going to drink today. 9 a.m. felt shitty. Not going to drink. 11. Nope. No, not one drink tonight. 2 o'clock. you're feeling better. So you're like, okay, I might, no, I won't. And then 3 o'clock, well, I'm just going to have one. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Okay, now it's 1, now it's 4, now it's, 5 drink. And then you're like, how did I go on this again? So that's how my drinking went, to a point where I finally had just had enough. And I tried everything, and I just had enough. And that's sort of my cycle.
So it sounds like it was kind of, progressive for you realizing you needed to make a change with alcohol. So what was it where you were finally like, okay, this is getting bad, I really need to make a change? Or did that happen for you, or what was that experience like?
It was one of those those horror stories, the shame, the guilt, the cringy. We call them the killer cringes. One of those when you look back on that drunken story and you do this, and you can't even think about it. It's so horrible. My 40th birthday. That was the real breaking point for me. I'd gone to Mexico to visit a guy. I was nervous. I got drunk on the plane. And by the way, getting drunk on a plane never works out. They say that actually one drink on the ground is 3 in the air. And I didn't know that. And I had taken sleeping pills the night before because I was nervous. So I'm adding alcohol in the air, 2 nerves. I get in Mexico. I'm absolutely out of my mind drunk. I'm trying to hold it together. I hook up with this guy. We don't even really know each other that well. I mean, it already was off to a horrible start, and that turned into a big blackout bingey night. And it was not a pretty night. I don't remember it. And I would think that everybody with AUD, with alcohol use disorder, has one of those horrible mornings when before you even open your eyes, you know that last night didn't go well. You don't know what happened, but you know it didn't go well. And I woke up, and before I even opened my eyes, I just had that dread, and I felt that dread for years. And you would do anything other than that. I mean, we drank through that dread. It was so horrible. And I just remember waking up and going, and I'm in a foreign country with somebody I don't even know. And I just remember looking around and going, let's find out how bad this went. And it went really bad. To the point where actually I left this great romantic 40th birthday present to go and stay in a hotel in Cabo San Lucas by myself. I cried for 3 days. I kept drinking because I didn't think about it. I didn't put the two together. I didn't go, gee, all these problems in my life, what's the one common denominator? It was always alcohol. But you don't see that. And I didn't. And that was when I finally went, wow, okay, you know what? Something's got to give. And I remember thinking, sitting with it was happy hour, and you know what it was? It was the day that Obama was voted in, because I remember sitting on the patio in a bar in Cabo San Lucas, and all the votes were coming in, and these drunk Americans were standing there, and I'm double fisting and crying about this horrible romantic thing that went completely sideways because I got annihilated and embarrassed myself beyond words. And I'm sitting there, and I just all of a sudden, I remember looking at these 2 milky, boozy drinks and going, what's the answer? And I'm like, I can quit drinking. Oh my God. I can quit drinking. I don't ever have to drink again. And the weight that came off my shoulders, it makes me emotional to talk. I just went, how did you never think? Oh my God, all my problems will go away. I just won't drink again. Now, what a great idea. 2 weeks later, the fear goes away because the shame simmers and you forget how bad it was. But that was my 40th birthday is when I went, oh, wow, alcohol has always been the problem, and you have a problem, Sam. And that was the one that kicked it off. And from there, I springboarded into 3.5 years of looking into Alcoholics Anonymous. I went in and out of those rooms. I tried everything, by the way, in order to address my alcoholism, because that's when I learned I can put this down. No, I couldn't. Not that I got annihilated every night. I just couldn't put it down. And I really went, wow, you actually really can't put this down. That was a dark day when I recognized that. And I tried everything. I went and took ayahuasca in Peru. I did meditation. I was on a mountain doing this, 12 hours a day, saying crazy things. I did everything. Hypnosis. I tried everything, and I blamed myself. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, you heathen? Put the drinks down. It's not your 20s anymore. And like most people with AUD, you think there's something wrong with you. I'm a heathen. I have no control. I have all these things wrong with me. Why can't you just do it? And then I'm trying to think what happened before naltrexone. I think I found naltrexone and the Sinclair method just completely out of the blue. It's bizarre. I read a book. It didn't quite work. I did a seminar, Annie Grace.
Yeah.
Annie
Yeah. Love her book. Love her work.
She wrote a book called This Naked Mind, and it really connected with me. I read it. And it's a book that there's a lot of things I recommend for anybody that wants to start the path to moving out of alcohol dependence. That is a book that I would definitely recommend. It didn't get me sober, but it made me start to look at alcohol differently. It really was quite amazing. It gave me a shift. And then she had an online seminar, like a 30-day seminar, and I watched that, and it didn't get me there. And I had emailed her and said, look, Annie, I love your book and I love the seminar, but it's not stopping me. And she said, you know what? Have you ever heard of Claudia Christian? And I'm like, no. She goes, she's an actor. I'm like, oh, right, Deep Space Nine or whatever, one of the Star Trek things.
Yes,
and I'm
yes.
like, yes, because I'm an actor. And I said, oh, yeah. And she said, do me a favor. Go and find her YouTube, How I Quit Alcoholism. Go and find her documentary, One Little Pill, and go and read a book by Dr. Roy Escapa called The Cure for Alcoholism. She goes, go and do that. She said, if my stuff's not working for you, I have told a few people about naltrexone and the Sinclair method. This may be the answer for you. And bingo, my life changed from there on.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I know. So like, okay, so it was at your 40th birthday where you realized you had the issue, and then you went many years until you found the naltrexone?
Yeah. Well, put it this way. I just turned 50, like November the 2nd.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. 40 was when I hit the, oh my God, I got a problem. And oh my God, I need to do something about it. And I actually can't by myself. I did some AA. I did all the life-changing blah, 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 blah. And I found naltrexone and more importantly, the Sinclair method just over a year ago. I think it was October of last year. So that's just, just over, what is that, 14 months? Pretty much 14 months, actually 14 months, I think, almost to the day. That's when I found it, and it has taken me up until now, and I'm a happy girl.
So tell me about that then. Tell me about what it was like when you first found the naltrexone, and what your experience was like going from someone who was really struggling and not succeeding at kind of wrangling it on your own compared to what it was like when you started on the naltrexone.
Wow, that's so big. Okay, so I watched, so I did what she said, and you get pretty desperate. I'm like, I will do anything to fix this now. So I immediately went, online and found the documentary, One Little Pill, that Claudia did, which, by the way, you can rent it I rented it online for $4. I think you can buy it online for 10. I also think if you have Amazon Prime, it's free or something, but I was just like, oh my God, give me this thing so badly. And I saw that. At first I saw her TED Talk, and that really gave me hope, because she said, here's where I was. This is easy. I still drink, but my thing is under control. So I went, oh my God, how do I get this magic? I wanted to eat her just to get her magic inside me.
Exactly.
Then I saw the documentary, and it blew my mind. And I'm sure I cried, because I was just like, this could be the answer. So I rushed out and had to find a doctor, and I, literally scrambled out, went into a walk-in clinic, wouldn't go to my home doctor because God forbid, went into a walk-in clinic. Thank God I found a guy who deals with addictions. And he was like, and I had this big story, and he goes, yeah, sure. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, you're going to give this to me? Because it's a problem. It's not highly prevalent. The medical community doesn't know. And it bugs me. They don't know enough about this right now, but this guy was on it. And he said, sure, here's a month. And I took that little pill, and I went, oh, and I was like, oh, magic, ooh, rainbows, unicorns. And I took it and I got all ready, and I'm like, I'm going to go to my favorite little restaurant, and I'm going to go have my favorite little glass of wine. And I took half a pill, as I, found that I had found on social media, don't take the whole thing, because it's a bit of a shift. And I took it, and I went to my favorite restaurant, and I, went in and ordered a glass of wine, and I had no idea what it was going to look like. And when you have an alcohol problem, you don't even know. When people say, I had one, why can't you just stop at one? You're like, dude, I don't even know what one feels like. And at that time, I couldn't even imagine not wanting more than one. You can't imagine what that even, if somebody said there's a new color out there in the world, you would go, I have no idea what that would even look like, because I can't imagine it. It was kind of that idea. And so I'm like, what's this even going to look like? So I took half a pill, 1 hour before you drink, and I will harp on that because there's a couple of rules. It's very simple. Naltrexone, the Sinclair method, is super simple, but you have to stick to a couple of rules. Took my half pill, hour before, got my meal, got the glass of wine, took the glass, had a little bite to eat, took the glass of wine, and my life changed from there on. Very minimally, and it was a harder road than I thought it was going to be, but from day one, something was different. Oddly enough, that first meal had no taste as well. My food my food enjoyment has come back, but there are a bunch of different side effects to naltrexone. For me, I was eating away going, wow, I'm just eating this for the sake of eating this. This doesn't taste like anything. What's going on here? But I was so excited that I didn't even want the wine. I'm like, who am I? I'm drinking this, and all it tasted was fermented grapes. It didn't taste like love. It didn't taste like the escape that we always had. It didn't taste like all the things. It was just a glass of fermented grapes. I didn't even finish it. I got halfway through, finished my meal, I took a picture of it. I sent it to Annie Grace and said, what is this sorcery? What is this magic? And that was the kickoff. Now, the sad thing is, it didn't go straight up from there. And some people, by the way, it does. Some people that start on the Sinclair method with naltrexone, it's just a common thing. But what I learned is that naltrexone works in a very funny way, and it's not linear. And mine was a very tough path. Let's just say it was a very tough path. But at 9 months, things finally, they clicked into place, and now my life is fantastic.
Can you say more there where you say it was a very tough path? Like, what was the experience like for you? I know you mentioned, of course, there are some people who respond to the medication sooner and they're drinking drops consistently right away, but for many more, and I think like your experience, it's not quite like that. So what was that like for you?
It was frustrating because I'd seen on the social media pages that people were like, wow, I'm a month in and I don't even think about alcohol anymore. And some people did it at 2. Some people found the magic, time at 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. What I saw more than anything was probably 3 to 6 months was the magic window for most people. I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And like the fear of anybody, I was like, wow, am I going to be the 20% that this doesn't work for? Oh my God, I'd worked so hard. And finally, I thought I found something, and I was like, this isn't working. This isn't working. This isn't working. And everybody had said the same thing to me over and over. Hang on. Everybody is different, and there's no explanation. And one day you're on it, and one day, it just changes. You just have to keep going. And that's what I tell a lot of people. So I'm like, okay, blah, 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 blah. And I'm getting ticked because I'm watching all these people have great success. And right about, I think it was the 9 month. It was the 9 month mark. And what I will say to people that are struggling with that time, if you're not seeing it fast enough, be aware that it's not going to smash you in the head. It is not a big aha moment. Holy Jesus, you wake up and things change. It was the most subtle path that I've ever experienced. And let me explain that really briefly. This is how I knew. And I didn't wake up one day and it happened. I was like sitting there, in self-pity going, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? And I'm like, my last drink, and I'm like, well, hang on a second, wait. When was my last drink? And I actually had to go to the calendar and look, okay, well, it was Josh's 45th birthday party. And I looked back and I didn't realize until that moment right then that I had not had a drink in 10 days. Now, here's a person that obsesses still a little bit about alcohol, that had thought about alcohol every single day, that couldn't before go a day without alcohol. And all of a sudden 10 days had gone by and I didn't even recognize it. I didn't even see it. It just got so out of my head. I went on with my life. I didn't even think about it anymore. And I didn't even see it until I actually looked at the calendar and went, holy Jesus, it's been 10 days and I didn't even know it. That's when I saw it. That's when I went, oh, wow, this is working. And it was not the big burning bush that I thought it was going to be. It just happened so slowly. And then from there, from the 9 month mark, it just got better. And I'm like, okay, wow, does this work? It's just really subtle.
Wow. Yeah, I know, as someone who might still be in the throes of alcohol dependence, not having tried naltrexone yet, just what you described there, that is hard to even imagine. Like, not thinking about alcohol for 10 days, like, how is that even possible? At least I knew that was true for me. It's like, I think about alcohol all day, every day. How is that possible? But like you compared with the new color, it's possible and it's unbelievable. And it's almost, you're getting the help of the medication, but it's almost like it's happening naturally, that you're returned to the state you were in prior to your addiction.
And you read about it. Like, you have to read the book. Everybody, I think, that's going to go on this path, there's many things to read, but there's one thing you have to read. It's your Bible, and it is Roy Scopa's The Cure for Alcoholism. That's one of the things I got early on in going through this all. And that was my base. When I didn't understand stuff, I kept going back to that book. Because again, like you said, you really don't know what it's going to look like because you've lived in this different levels of alcohol use disorder for off and on for years, and it changes and it goes up and down, and you get so far into it for so many decades, you don't remember what it was like to go to bed without alcohol in your system. You don't know what it's like to go a week without it and recognize that, wow, I'm not depressed and I'm not anxiety, because you've pretty much had alcohol every single day for however many years. And then you just look back. It's always looking back. It's like, rah, rah, rah. Oh my God, yeah, that's totally different now. But you have to have what it looks like from the future, looking back on what it looked like before. It's hard to explain. There's so much of it that I can't explain. You just have to go through it, and then you'll go, now I get what people were talking about.
Totally. So I'm curious, you were drinking quite regularly before naltrexone, and now it sounds like you're drinking a lot less. Have you noticed improvements in your mental, physical, emotional health? And what areas have you seen kind of grow or develop there?
Oh yeah, a total 180. And even in areas that you don't think about, like a lot of people like myself, we used alcohol, or we thought alcohol helped us go to sleep. We thought alcohol, oh no, I sleep better with alcohol. And once you don't, you go, no, I don't. I have the best, exactly. God, and then your whole body's different, right? Because you're sleeping more and you're drinking water and you're eating better and you're not putting poison in your system. So my mother used to say, what makeup, what colors are you wearing? What did you do to your hair? People were saying, and I lost a lot of weight. I wasn't puffy. I just looked healthy. I felt healthy. I slept so amazingly well. And my depression and my anxiety, again, oh no, I drink, I have to drink to get through my anxiety. It's another one of those bullshit lines that we really do believe. And I don't know if it's because it makes us feel better. No, I have to, because it doesn't. You realize that alcohol actually exacerbated my depression, and it exacerbated my anxiety. And you really do think it's helping you when you're in the moment. But again, you've got to get to where you've had it without alcohol for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks to be able to go, no, I was so wrong. I was so in denial. Alcohol really was the catalyst to all of those problems. And once you get out of it, it just feels so good in so many different ways: mental, physical, emotional. Your relationships are better. Just every area of your life, even in the most small, tiny little way, every area of your life improves without alcohol. There's not one area. Sex, I thought I needed alcohol to have sex. I'm still getting through the party thing. There's still some challenges that I'm having, but every area of your life changes when you get rid of alcohol, when you go down on alcohol. I'm not rid of it yet, but when you go down on it, even areas you never thought would be affected by it. So
yeah. So what is your drinking like nowadays that it's been? How long you've been on naltrexone? A little over a year, or how long has it been? And what's your drinking like?
October 16th was that little dinner with the wine and the pictures and the blah, blah, blah. Pretty sure it was either October 16th or September 16th. What is it like now? It's so many things. It is, what is it? It's funny. It's Christmas, right? So it's gone up. I've noticed that in the last couple of days. It's a social time of year. People go out. I've had, come over for a Christmas drink after work. And so I had drinks last night. I had drinks a couple nights ago. And it's funny because I woke up at 3:00 in the morning this morning going, why am I awake? Because I drank alcohol, because my body's so used to having such great deep sleeps. And now alcohol is now playing with my sleep. So I know when I've had alcohol. And now it's kind of gone up. And it's a social thing. I don't drink every day anymore. I'll go a week. I'll go, whereas that was so not possible before. I'll have it. I do lean on it still socially, and that's my mental. It's a crutch that I'm still using. There are some triggers for me. And the social thing I haven't let go of yet. But here's the thing that it's given me that is so important. I don't have fear anymore. I will go and if I'm going to go out socially, I will take my naltrexone 1 hour before you drink, every single time you drink. And I can drive to where I'm going. You get freedom. I know how that night's going to go. I know that I will have one. I will have maybe two. For example, I'm going to Christmas dinner tonight. I took naltrexone right before you and I started talking. And I know exactly how tonight is going to go. We'll have a glass of champagne. We do this every year. I'm going to have a glass of champagne before dinner. We're going to have a glass of wine with dinner. These guys they're heavy drinkers, so they'll continue on. I may have a port just because it's Christmas. I may have a port or whatever afterwards, but I know that I will stop at that point in time. I know that I could drive home. I'm getting picked up, but I know that I could drive home. And more importantly, I know how tonight is going to go. I am not scared of how's tonight going to go. Is it going to end up in a blackout? Am I going to end up in somebody else's bed? Am I going to end up my neighbors carrying me in the building? Am I going to, whatever. Am I going to come home and go, God, where's my purse? Where's my, you used to do that thing in the morning. Where are my keys? Where's my purse? Where's my, you checked your pockets. Where was your car? That horrible, I remember that from the past. Boy, I do not miss that. I know how things are going to go now. So I may drink, outside of Christmas, I may drink once a week with friends. It depends on what's going on socially, but I don't just drink for the sake of drinking anymore. It has to be tied to dinner with a person, or airports are still a weird one for me. If there's a place that I used to go and drink, I'll still have one, but it's one. It really is truly one. It very, very seldom is three, it's just, I'm a different person. So my drinking is not the center of my life anymore, where it used to be the center of my life. And now I don't go out to bars and restaurants just to sit at the bar and sort of pound away. It is so in the background. It's still there, and I still obsess about alcohol. I still think about it all the time. I still walk by a restaurant or a bar, and I immediately scan where the taps are. I look in the window and scan where it's funny what my brain does, but it doesn't necessarily want it anymore. It just looks for alcohol. It just doesn't need it anymore. So in answer to your question, once a week, once every 10 days, when there's a social event, yes, I will have a drink or two, but that's pretty much all it is. It's amazing.
Wow. Yeah. And I feel like the way you describe it and how you kind of give little anecdotal examples, like you have a lot of mindfulness around this whole experience, and you're kind to yourself. Like it's the holidays, you're noticing your drinking's increasing, but you're watching that, you're noticing it, you're not beating yourself up for it. And I think that's really, really important when going on this method, because like you said, it's not just a perfect like downward slope of drinking. It's up and down, and you're noticing your triggers. And I just think that's really important.
I think everybody knows. I think when you're really starting to come to terms, I should say me, when I finally really did something about it, it had been years of in the back of your head, you have a problem. I would say that most people, way before they ever actually do anything about it, when you've got a problem. So you really start to look at it and you see it, when you're like, I'm just going to have one, and you don't, you have six. And how did I do it again? And how did this happen again? And I'm not going to drink today. And I'm not going to have a vodka and soda with vodka and orange juice with breakfast. And I was not a morning drinker, but the odd occasion you drink your way through a hangover, you justified everything. You really do become aware of your drinking in the last couple of years. I didn't know. Yeah, you did. You did know. You just were scared to do anything about it. And I think that I talk about it very openly, especially with people that want to talk about it. And I love these conversations because I think that we all went through a lot of shame. There's still a big stigma around alcohol, right? Mm-hmm. And alcohol use disorder. I hate the word alcoholic because it's one thing and it's got a stigma around it. You're a horrible person. Oh, you're an alcoholic. You imagine rolling around in a trench coat with a paper bag peeing yourself. That's not an alcoholic. Alcoholic is everything from not alcoholic. Alcohol use disorder is what we use now because it's a sliding scale, right? Mm-hmm. You can be that person that has a vodka and orange juice every morning. You got the shakes and you have to start off with alcohol. Or you can be, most of the time that I was a fully functioning alcoholic. I never lost a job over it. I definitely showed up hungover a few times, maybe even still drunk, but I didn't lose a job. I was just the person that was dependent on alcohol to get me through everything. Social events, sex, boring things, fun things. I relied on it, and in the end, I actually couldn't put it down. Sometimes crazy, sometimes weren't, but I wasn't what you think the movies of an alcoholic were. So I think talking about it is incredibly important, and sharing the crazy stories. For me, I like sharing them because somebody said once, if you can laugh about something in the future, let's laugh about it now. We might as well just get it out and get the shame out and get all that stuff out, and let's have a laugh. Life is short. Let's laugh about this stuff, because the great thing about all AUD people being around each other is, and a bunch of AUD people in a room are a lot of fun. I'm not an AA person. It didn't work for me. It works for a lot of people. It didn't work for me. But the one great thing about those rooms is you're sharing them with people that know the road that you went down, and every crazy story that you have, someone's got one better. And that's important. I do think that we can laugh about those things. And when we can, we're human. We're not perfect. We
Yeah.
don't have, we're not horrible people, that we're heathens. This is what I used to think about myself. I'm a horrible person. I should be guilty and shameful, and I can't put it down. And why can't you stop? It's a biological. They've proven about, you know, more about this, with Ria than I do about read Estappa's book. Read all those books on alcoholism. It is a biological thing. It is an environmental thing. It's not about you're a crappy person that has no self-control. No, man, it's tough. It's really hard. People that do not struggle with AUD don't understand what that struggle is. But the people that do recognize it. We need to stick together, man. We need to be able to go, no, we're not bad people. We just have had an issue with alcohol. And the Sinclair method comes along and helps you fix that, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was my answer. And I think it could be everybody's answer. Science is the answer. And I hope in 10 years, all AUD sufferers now know an automatic route to getting out of the struggle. Because right now it's not talked about enough.
It's not. And you know how you and I got connected because on your Twitter, you were vocal about naltrexone, and you tend to spread the message there about its effects for helping with alcohol use disorder. So, being an actress and being someone who's in the public eye and, potential for scrutiny, you've still been an advocate for it, and you're still using your voice to, share really intimate and vulnerable stories about these things that you've maybe held shame around. So where is that courage coming from? What's leading you to really be an advocate for this when, easily you could secretly take care of your alcohol dependence and no one would know?
Well, a couple of different things. I'm a really, really open, heart on my sleeve, who I am, what you see is what you get. I'm lucky that I'm a very, very open book. And again, as I said, I'm into talking about all the crazy moments that we all had, because I think that bonds us and ties us all together. And we all recognize that we're all in this together and we're not perfect. So I'm really into talking about what I struggled with. And I think that's humanity. I think that the way we are going to get through this life is being able to say, here are my battle wounds. Here are my scars. I'm human as anybody else. We need compassion, and we need empathy and sympathy for each other and with each other. And when we can talk about those things openly, that's how we heal. So when I found something that finally worked for me, and it took 10 years, I went, oh my God, people need to know about this. Because when I took it and that magic bullet, when the lights went on, and I went, I don't have to struggle with this anymore. Science was the answer. It wasn't a higher power, which I do have, by the way. I totally have a higher power. But that's not how I manage my alcohol. It was science. It was naltrexone and the Sinclair method. When I found something that finally was this magic, I went, I have to share this. I can't keep this to myself. And because I'm so open and loud, it was something that I went, you realize, Sam, that you're going to have to be open about this at some point in time. You're going to have to go public with this. It's here. You can't hold this back. It's just, it wouldn't be fair. Because I can affect a lot of people. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I just mean, because I'm an actor, and a lot of people do, it's going to sound so, I don't know how to say it without being arrogant. A lot of people, for example, Twitter, I have 96,000 Twitter followers, and a lot of them, because I did a show called Supernatural for a number of years, it's where I get a lot of my followers. A lot of them are young. They're young women. They look up to me because I had a very strong character on the show. I was a gun-toting, bar-owning broad, and really the broad sense. And they all looked up to me. They looked up to my character, Ellen Harvell, and they still tweet me and message me, and they look up to me. And I thought about if one of them, and let's be honest, they say 1 in 10 have AUD. I think that's BS. I think it's more like 1 in 5, 1 in 6 are going to struggle with alcohol at some point in time in their life. If I can affect one of those people by retweeting a Ria comment or saying something or reposting, just even if I hashtag the Sinclair method naltrexone, if I can affect one person and they could talk to somebody else, I have a responsibility, I think, to do that, because I know what the struggle was for me to get a handle on alcohol. I would be an incredibly selfish person to keep that to myself and not be able, because if somebody told me about naltrexone and the Sinclair method 10 years ago, I could have saved 20 years ago. Boy, could I have saved a lot of heartache. And if I can save that heartache for someone else, I have no problem talking about it publicly. there's stigma around it. Absolutely. Am I going to get my ass kicked for it in certain medias? Am I going to become uncredible? Certainly. Some people are going to look and go, yeah, but she's an alcoholic, or she's whatever. Somebody's not going to like what I said. They're going to use that against me at some point in time, because there is still the stigma around alcohol use. But that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. You know, this has got to get out. And if I can, much like Claudia, if I can use my voice to do that, that will be my plight in this life. If I can go out there and affect 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people indirectly, then I can leave this world and go, what were you here to do? Maybe that's what I was here to do. Because it saved my life, and I need to be able to tell other people that this can save your life, and it will.
Yeah.
You just have to give it a shot.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. And by doing this, we're chipping away at the stigma. I feel we're making it less stigmatized, because it does impact so many people. Yet it's so hard for us to talk about it, because like you were saying, with alcohol use disorder being a spectrum, it's like we only have a reference for an alcohol problem when you're the rock bottom in a gutter, homeless, lost everything. But no, they exist far more situations than that.
No, it's funny, because when you start to look at your alcohol drinking, you look at the people around you, and you know, your friends, some of them are fully functioning AUD surfers, but they're okay with it. And that's fine. You know what, if people have AUD and it doesn't affect their life, knock yourself out. It got to a point where I couldn't live with it anymore. I hated it. But one of my friends, she has 3 big, huge glasses of wine a day, and she's fine. It's funny, because she has horrible sleep, and I'm like, hey, what about the wine? She's like, oh no, she's never going to do it. But she's okay with that. And that's great. She has 1 big glass before, comes home, big glass of wine before dinner, big glass of wine while she's cooking dinner, big glass of wine after dinner, and then watches TV and goes to bed. Now, she doesn't have more than that, but, you know, and I'm like, okay, could you put that down? I would never put it down. I'm like, okay, that's AUD, but she's okay with it. Because if you're okay with your alcohol use, great, knock yourself out. It's when you have a problem with it. It's when it's weighing on you. It was such a monkey on my back, and I didn't realize how bad it was until I tried to get out of it. Until I got out of it, that's when I realized how much of a weight alcohol was on me. And it was, I had to find the Sinclair method. I had to find naltrexone. It was the thing that I needed to change my life. And it did. And my life changed 12 to 14 months ago. I haven't gone totally public about it yet. I've dibbled and dabbled, and I've retweeted things, and I haven't talked to my friends about it. I haven't gone on Facebook about it. I want to wait until I get to see if I go to extinction. I'm going to wait till about the 18-month, 2-year mark, because I want to see if I hit extinction. And for those of us who don't know what extinction is, to me, what extinction means is you don't even think about it. It's not a part of your life at all anymore. Like, you go out and you could have a Diet Coke or a glass of wine. They have the same effect on you mentally and physically. I'm not quite there yet. I still, as I said earlier, I still twig at airports, my hot spots. I still have a drink socially. I haven't put it down yet. I want to see where I'm at 18 months, and maybe I never will. I may just go, no, you know what? I'm going to have the social drink once in a while. I'm going to still have a drink when I go out with this person, when I go to an airport or wherever my hotspots are. Or I will get to a point where it's just not worth it, and I drink once a year, or I don't drink ever. I want to see where I'm at that point. And that's when I will decide, okay, I'm going to go on Facebook with my friends and family. And that will be a big day when I do that. And I will start going after it wholeheartedly on Twitter, and really going after it. Right now, I'm just making comments, and I'm dipping my toe. This is my first time ever talking about it publicly. So
wow, I'm so honored.
I know. Yes. But this is, it's got to happen. It's, as I said, it's my responsibility to get out there and start talking about this. And I'm not embarrassed. Not anymore.
Yeah.
It was. The shame and the guilt is gone. It's now a matter of, okay, this really is an issue for a lot of people. They need to hear about it, even though they're hiding in the backgrounds. People are still going, how do I manage this? It's, got to be said. It's got to be talked about.
Yeah. And I think you made such an important point where you were saying that, determining your own alcohol use disorder is a personal experience, like giving the example of your friend who's, she's fine drinking 3 full glasses of wine a night. And so that's what I find so great about medication assisted treatments like using naltrexone is it's up to you. Like, do you feel like you're drinking more than you want to? Then you can intervene by implementing naltrexone before it gets to be something that's too out of hand. It doesn't need to be so out of hand before you start to address it. It's like, I like to give the example of weight a lot. Like, it's easier to maybe lose 5 pounds you gain instead of the 25 pounds you gain. So I think it's an important point you made there.
Well, there are so many great things about the Sinclair method and naltrexone, but one of the really big ones is you don't have to quit drinking. Like you actually, and this is where a lot of people don't get it. This is where people get stuck, because you actually drink to get to manage the alcohol issue. And to some people, it's like, hang on a second, this is no, that's not how it works. But that actually is how it works. This is when you got to read the book. This is when you have to go and watch One Little Pill, the documentary, because it explains how the science of it works. And Ria in health, I'm not even going to try and get into that because I don't know, I can't explain it well. But when you do take the pill, it does retrain your brain, and the more you drink. And the great thing about it is when I was drinking still without, and I'm like, do you want to have a drink? Yes, because every time I drink, I'm actually moving towards reducing alcohol in my life. And you really are. And it's like, this is too good to be true. Really, I drink to get sober, or I hate the word sober. That's an AA term. I drink to manage my alcohol. And it was like, yep, you don't feel guilty. Do I want to have a drink today? Do it, because you're headed in the right direction. Every time you have a drink, you are. And I was. So you can tell people, you don't have to quit drinking. You just, it will quit you. There's a great line from a doctor, a female Indian doctor in One Little Pill, that says, you don't have to quit drinking. It will quit you. And just to take that pressure off the management of it, because AA, and I'm not going to knock AA. It wasn't for me. I tried. It's not my thing, but my brother is alive today because of AA, knock on wood. He just celebrated 4 years. He was in his first meeting. He found a higher power. He lost his desire for alcohol. He goes to 3 meetings a day, loves AA. He's sober. Fantastic. Whatever it takes to get you there. There's a lot of different ways that people can manage their alcohol. There's smart meetings. There's meditation, whatever. Some people do find they meditate and boom, they wake up and have a God moment. They never drink again. Some people white knuckle it, which I don't recommend. But this was like, I can drink my way into this. So, and you slowly but surely, your body just starts, you don't have to do a thing. All you have to do, and I'm going to say this again, all you have to do, take naltrexone, you take the pill 1 hour before you drink every single time you drink. How much simpler can it? It can't get any simpler than that. Now, is it easy? No, it's at the beginning. You need to pay attention, but that's all you have to do. Be mindful. You have to have a little patience. I shouldn't say that. One thing you do have to have a little faith that this works. You have to have a little faith in science. You have to have a little bit of patience and know that it took you years to become AUD where you're at now. It's going to take you a little while. It's not going to happen overnight. Some people it does. Don't count on that. It took me 9 months. So you've got to do that. But you can drink your way to having management on alcohol. You can drink your way into not drinking. How great is that? It doesn't get any better than that. So yeah, it's science. It's going to happen while you're drinking away. Fantastic. Bring it on.
Yeah. And it's almost like an act of kindness to yourself to know, like, okay, I have this craving. I'm not going to have to resist it. I can take the medication and have what I want. But yeah, like you said, it's kind of undoing the dependence with each drinking session you're having.
Yeah, it's magical. And it's, the only thing you got to get around is the family, I guess. And Claudia and her dad really made me cry, really touch on it in One Little Pill, because he just doesn't get it. And people that don't struggle with AUD, God love them. They mean well, but they just don't understand because they just don't get it. They don't know what it means to, hey man, just have one, stop at 3. They don't understand that the AUD brain doesn't stop at 3. It actually physically can't stop at 3. I saw a thing many years ago where they attached electrodes. It was a Gabor Mate thing because he dealt with addiction. Vancouver's downtown east side. Now he dealt with heavy opiate addictions and heroin, all that stuff, but he also dealt with alcohol addiction. And I think it was something that he did on a documentary, and they did electrodes up to the alcoholic brain and they plugged them up to a non-alcoholic brain, and they gave them both alcohol, and then alcoholic, I use that term, I hate it. The AUD brain, when it had one drink, lit up like a Christmas tree. It went bananas. And the non-AUD brain didn't even, maybe it fired a little bit in this area and a little, prefrontal cortex really. But so there is the biology of the brain that responds to the brain that doesn't respond. So this is where it's also a very, very lonely addiction, because the people that don't get it, they just don't get it. Hey man, stop at 1. Hey man, you went really crazy last night. It's like, I don't know why I couldn't stop at 1. And then, like, I really can't stop at 1, but they just don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And in One Little Pill, her dad just didn't get it. And he was a tough, gruff guy that just said, I couldn't understand. And he didn't get the naltrexone. He's like, she's drinking this is an excuse to keep drinking. But in the end, he cried, made me cry, because he was a tough military dude. He said, now I get it. Mm-hmm. Now I understand that she had to drink her way into recognizing that, not recognizing, but drink her way into letting this drug come into her system and work its way through. I mean, it's quite amazing how naltrexone works. Mm-hmm. Caps off the endorphins. For the AUD brain, there's that Christmas light, that brain that lights up like a Christmas tree. That's the naltrexone, or that's the endorphin that the non-AUD brain doesn't get. So naltrexone comes in, caps off that endorphin rush. So eventually, drinking a glass of wine becomes like drinking a Diet Coke. It doesn't have that zing that the AUD brain does. So it whatever they call it, deregulates. You would know the science explanation better than I would. It's Pavlov's dog. You don't get that crazy euphoria. And slowly over time, your brain just de-addicts. Mm-hmm. I try to explain this to people. They're like, you can't get de-addicted. People, AA, 12-step, again, God love them, they mean well. They don't understand that science has found its way. And that's exactly how it works. And if they want to use, the 12 steps and it's a lot of work for AA. And some people it works for, their success rate is very, very minimal. I think 10 years, it's like 4 to 6%. Yeah. And I think naltrexone and the Sinclair method is what? I think they say is it 77, but, it's got to be 80% because there's some people that probably didn't take part in the math of the study. I have yet to see one person that it genuinely 2 years later had no effect on. Not one. I have not seen one.
Yeah.
Quite amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not 100%, and there's a lot of factors for that, but it does definitely outweigh by far the effects of rehab and AA and really abstinence-based models. And there's science and research to show that. I wanted to ask you were talking about the difficult part being family. So, at RIA and, in my own personal circles, I've seen people who want to try naltrexone and their family just doesn't get it. They're seeing as an excuse to keep drinking. And so what was it like for you? Did you tell your family, your friends? Did you have any pushback? What was that experience like for you?
I was kind of quiet about it at the beginning because by that time I was sort of, any drinking I was mostly doing at home. Mm-hmm. So I was really quiet about it. When did I tell? My brother by that time had been year ago, he'd been 3 years sober. He'd actually, funnily enough, many, many years ago when I was struggling away and he was still drinking away, I'm like, how am I going to fix this? And I think I'd started AA meetings and he wasn't going to go because he didn't want the God thing. Oddly enough, came around and totally worked for him, but he was like, I'm not going to do the God thing. And there is a higher power thing in AA. And I remember saying, this isn't working. And he goes, well, there's something out there called naltrexone. This was years ago when we were both drinking. And I remember going, how does it work? And he said, I don't know. You take a pill and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. That's not going to work. I mean, how is that possibly going to, not a chance. I couldn't possibly fathom it. And I totally forgot what you asked me. Ask me again. What was the question?
Oh, no, that's okay. No, I'm just curious if you had any pushback or questioning from your family and if you told them what that was like for you.
I was really quiet about it when I started. Nobody really, my drinking had gotten smaller anyway. I was drinking mostly at home. My mom wasn't saying anything. She drinks 6 beers a night anyway. My little British teetotaling by day, there is a perfect example of somebody that's got a drinking issue, but it works in their life. So she's 80. She puts 6 beers back between the 6 o'clock news and the sports. So like 30 minutes, my mom can drop it. And she's a little 82-year-old British lady, but she doesn't go out and she drinks and dials. It's funny. On her fridge, she's got a thing that says not after 2 beers. And I was like, what's this, Mom? And she said, oh, darling, she said, I get on the phone and I get a bit yappy. And I'm like, yeah, that's booze, Mom. she's had to train herself not to. So she applies herself, you know, to sleep every night with a huge buzz, but she's okay with that. And she's not driving, so she's not doing anybody any huge, you know, damage. So we'll let her have that alcohol. But I didn't really talk to her about it. No, I think I thought it was too good to be true. And I didn't want to admit to anybody that I had a problem. So I was looking into it in a scientific way. So I was really quiet about it. I think it's only when I started to see some serious response, because also you'd failed at so many other times of managing your drink. You didn't want to talk about it anymore because this is the answer this time and it didn't work. So everybody's like, oh, she's drinking again. You know what I mean? It was, okay, I'm not just even going to talk about this time. I'm just going to see how this goes. And then when it started to explode for me, that's when I went, hey guys, or they noticed, they go, you want another one? I'm like, no. And they're like, I've had 3 and you've had a half of that. And I'm like, yeah, and here's why. And I will tell them about the Sinclair method and naltrexone, and again, getting the word out. So when my friends finally do admit, or they do get to that point, because the alcohol issues do become worse with time, they don't get better. When they get to that point, I'll be able to say, here's what I did. And you lead by example. That's the best way that you can eventually introduce this to the friends and family and the people around you, is lead by example. What did she do? Because she looks great. She's fantastic. She had half a beer. I had 6. She's not struggling. I am. You know what I mean? That's the way this is going to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, you know, just to kind of wrap up here, maybe with a final question, I know you were talking about a lot of areas where your life has improved, like your physical, mental, emotional health, but, you know, for a lot of people, when they drink regularly over a long period of time, it's often numbing out emotions and things that come up. So have there been challenges for you where, you know, you didn't perhaps realize they were there, that you were numbing out with alcohol, that have come to the surface? And like, what's your self-care practice? How are you coping and being kind to yourself through this process of changing your relationship to alcohol?
I think I don't know if we always know that alcohol numbs out emotions. Like, I think you have to get older in life. I did a lot of self. I mean, there's a certain amount of trauma that comes with every childhood. When you're born in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, parents sucked back then. At least my parents were horrible. Now parents are a little more involved with kids' emotional levels. They're now looking at that stuff. They have a word for ADD now. They didn't back then. They have, you know, there's different kind of parenting happened. But back then, my parents, as my mother used to say, oh God, your father and I should never have had children, darling. And they shouldn't have. I know, she's, you know,
Oh my gosh.
I know. Real treat, my mother. She's actually fun, but they really shouldn't have had kids. They were horrible at it. So we got some damage. Most people that were born in that time, but parents, there was no book written on how to be parents. So a lot of people came into the world with a little bit of damage, and then the damage got worse. And then you can either look at it later in life. I was always I wanted to work at the trauma that we got handed. I wanted to look at why we were the way that we were. I was very self-aware from an early age. I had struggled with emotional stuff that was genetically handed. My family struggles with depression and emotional and mental stuff. But I wanted to look at why things were the way they were. And so I started to see distraction at an early age. I started to see that I was using alcohol, not just because it was fun, but I was using it to numb out emotions. And being an actor, actors, you do see a lot of drinking actors out there, not just because it's part of the lifestyle, and we do have a lot of time on our hands because a lot of time we're not working, but to be an actor, a very good one, you tend to have access to your emotions, like they're right there. And when you are an emotional person, booze it can be the be all and end all, because it does the ultimate numbing thing. And that was the introduction to it. And then it just springboards, off from there. It really numbs, and then it goes past that. But by that time, you're knee deep in it. You can use many things to numb out. And one of the things that I learned, I did ayahuasca many years ago, and I learned one of the things a revelation I had was these bright lights kept flashing, distraction in front of my face. And I remember coming back going, what is this distraction thing? And what I learned is we use a lot of things as distractions. All of us, not even AUD people, people that struggle with alcohol, we use a lot of their addictions to many other things. And it's not just, opiates or whatever, or weed. It's things that you wouldn't think. It's It's the okay addictions, like and I'd still do it. I watch myself do it. Food, cigarettes, my phone, anything that takes you away, takes you out of it, takes you away from feeling anything. And that's good or bad. You use alcohol to make things feel good, make things feel not so good, just get out of feelings altogether. The whole universe, look at the kids and their phones. My God, we are a numbing society. We now distract ourselves constantly. So I think we have to start looking at when we do it. And I'm starting to catch myself and start to be mindful. Mindful is a word that we use now. And I'm glad that it's a word that we use. And people are getting into meditation and all the Pilates and all the things that are tied body and mind. And we are a society that gets into that stuff, and we need to be mindful. We need to stop and go, why am I keep picking up my phone? Why am I smoking a million cigarettes? And I don't do this with alcohol anymore. I used to, it used to be at the end, it was like, okay, why are you drinking? Well, I don't care. I'm just going to drink. Now I do look at why you're using this as a distraction, and people still use it as for alcohol. And I hope that one day they get to a point where they look at it and go, why am I using this? And that's all it is. It's awareness. Because the minute you have awareness about whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're using, if you are distracting or numbing or whatever it is, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start to, every time you do it, you kind of go, and that's the beginning of it. And that's great. And that's all you have to do is start to be mindful of something, because it's like pulling a string. You will start to pull it and pull it more. And then you just need to get to a point where you go, okay, what can I do about this? What am I distracting myself from? Okay, how about and maybe it takes to 50, because it took me to 50 to finally go, don't pick up the phone. Don't stop, put the food down. What is it that you're thinking about right now? And usually it's tied to an emotion. Somebody pointed that out. When you do go to the distraction, if you go to food and it's not because you're genuine, your body needs fuel, if you think about what you were thinking about at that moment, you can usually track it to where what the emotion is that you're trying to avoid, because it's always you're trying to avoid an emotion. That's really what it comes down to now. What are you trying to avoid? And you can usually go, what was I thinking about before I reached for that fifth handful of almonds, whatever it is that you reach for? And I'm like, oh, wow. And once you start to catch that, you start to become your own psychologist, your own armchair psychologist. So I try to cut myself some slack now. I try to recognize, okay, what are you doing? Okay, Ferris, this is what you're doing. And you got to cut yourself some slack. Again, you're not perfect. We're not perfect. I wanted to be all my whole life. I thought if I was perfect, if I could control my world, because my world when I was a kid was not safe, I'll be okay. Well, it's never going to happen. So deal with it. I used to use alcohol to deal with it. I still use my food, the phone, cigarettes, whatever the stuff to manage it. But I'm working on it. That's all it is. Life is working on it. We're never going to figure it out. You're not going to die having figured it. Oh, okay, now I'm done. I'm 46. I've figured it all out. It's never going to happen. But as long as you're headed in that direction, have fun along the way while you do it. That's it. Don't beat yourself up about this. It's especially AUD, because we're really wrapped up in guilt and shame and hiding it and fear and denial and dark rooms and all that stuff. No, man, embrace it. Embrace your bullshit. Get out there and go, yes, I definitely streaked through the neighborhood at Jim's wedding. I screwed it up because I slept with the bride's sister in the bathroom, whatever, la, la, la. And there are a ton of those stories out there. Laugh about them now, because one day you're going to laugh about them. You might as well do it now. Take care of yourself. Don't beat yourself up. This is life. This is part of it. But if you do, and I say this to everybody, if you do have alcohol use disorder, if you're worried about your drinking, look into it. That's all you have to do is look into it. There are many ways to look into naltrexone and the Sinclair method. You don't even just dip your toe in. That's what I did. I found the forum. I found that little online forum. You don't even have to give your number. I started with the Facebook page. I read the book. I saw that. I started to go, I don't want to put my name on this. Can I be quiet about it? Because I have a fairly public lifestyle. I didn't want my name on stuff. And I'm like, you can start to just look at it from a distance and go, is this for me? You don't have to do it now, maybe a year from now, maybe 6 months from now. Just keep it in the back of your mind, but don't beat yourself up anymore, because I've gotten to a point where I'm not beating myself up anymore about it. So if I can do it now, do it early, because it feels horrible. And you can get to a place where you're like, no, I sleep at night. I'm fine. I'm who I am.
I think that's an amazing note to end on, to really don't beat yourself up be kind to yourself, because when you're in the throes of AUD, it's so easy to do that. So thank you for leaving us with that note. It was so wonderful to talk with you today, and maybe we'll have you back again when you are further down the line and get another update from you to see where you're at.